My name is Ellie Davis, and you are listening to the League of Women Voters Oral History. Today, I'm talking with Ginney Krietler about fair voting and environmental issues.
Oh, how long I've been in Radnor. We moved here before Y2K. It was either 98 or 99. And we came here for the schools. My kids were in elementary school. And around 2005, I started to get involved with the league. One of the league members at that time had told me about how the league was playing a role providing input in the townships update of their comprehensive land use plan. And that was something I was interested in, and I wanted to be part of that process. Since then, so I still have worked on environmental issues for a long time, and actually did some work in the policy office for National Audubon and some work with the State Land Trust Association. So I have a continuing interest in those issues, which the league is active on. But more recently, I'm much more concerned with getting something done on the good government issues that are central to what the league's mission is all about.
Ms. Krietler has played a major role in the Radnor League of Women Voters by being a liaison to the statewide advocacy team.
So I was asked to join the Radnor League's board of directors last year. I think it was last year. Time flies. It's been a very strange time during COVID to try and keep track of how much time has gone by. But I am one of the vice presidents of the Radnor League, and my role principally right now is to serve as a liaison for the Radnor League to the statewide advocacy team of the League of Women Voters, which was just reinstituted December of last year. So I thought that was a really great thing. I think that advocacy is an important thing for the league to be doing. It's in our DNA. It's, what we were doing when there was not even quite a league yet, but at our outset was all about advocacy for women's right to vote. And there's certainly plenty to focus on now for the right to vote for all types of citizens across the country. But anyway, the team for the state advocacy work was started in December. The league's board of directors for the statewide league asked the woman who had been leading the fair districts work, which is all about redistricting, and had built an incredible organization, lots of people, very active, well, very visible. They've really, made their presence known. So they asked that same woman to come back and help set up an advocacy team for the League of Women Voters on, whatever the issues are of the moment that are relevant for us. So I think it's really good. I think it's a way for the members to engage on a deeper level with issues, which I think is really valuable to enable people to see, what the league brings to the table, what's the value of the organization, and just make themselves feel, I know for myself, it makes me feel like I'm participating in something that's, trying to make a difference. It's also a neat thing for the league because it gives a way for the members to collaborate with others across the whole state, which, at the level of the Radnor League, we don't always do a lot of that. But when we do, it's usually like neighboring townships like Lower Merion or the league members down in other parts of Delaware County. And with the advocacy team, I regularly interact with people from Pittsburgh and Lehigh Valley and, all over the state. So that's nice. And I really do think it's going to help build a stronger voice for the league on issues that are important to us. This advocacy team has been focused really on the good government issues. But before I go into depth on that, I'll just say that in June, when we elected new officers at the statewide level, they decided to share the responsibilities for advocacy and policy work among 3 people. So there is there continues to be a group that's working on good government issues. There's a newly installed director on environmental issues who's kind of getting her feet on the ground still. And I expect to hear from her down the road, but right now that's, getting set a little bit. There had been work on Marcellus shale and clean water issues that the league had been involved with, but I don't think the current team is quite in place yet. So, and then the third one was on social policy issues. I haven't spoken to the leader of that group, but I would imagine, things like social equity issues would be in their gun safety, education funding, things like that. But so within the advocacy team that I'm involved with and that I'll speak about, we're all focused on like good government, different aspects of good government. And the league has many positions that have been developed through consensus over the years. And we have so many, they're scattered at, you can look at the website for the National League, and there's some of our positions. You look at the website for the State League, there's more positions, and the Radnor League has, further nesting of positions in that. So if you were to start from our positions, we have a whole lot of stuff we could speak about. Legislators have let it be known in the past that, focus is a good thing when a constituent comes to talk to the legislator. So we picked about a half dozen issues to focus on this year. Some of the top ones that we've been working on actively are redistricting, and gerrymandering in the state. Proposed changes to the election laws. We've seen a lot of proposed changes across the country that would impose new restrictions on access to the vote. The league is all about, not disenfranchising people, so that's very important. We've, at the national level of the league, they are looking for ways to get around the bias introduced into our elections by the Electoral College. So the league has actually taken a position being against the Electoral College. And we have some people working on a mechanism for that. And then the issue that I've gotten very interested in is in reforming the rules that are used in the legislature, because the rules that they have been operating by recently allow our legislators to not be responsive at all to the voters. So it created a great deal of frustration for the fair districts folks, and opened a lot of people's eyes as to what was going on in terms of the rules. The whole issue about how bad the rules in the Harrisburg legislature are came to light during the process of advocating for redistricting to be done better in the state. It wasn't really well known to the citizens prior to that. And what happened was the people in fair districts principally had worked to build support for the legislation that they were advocating for. And they put a lot of work into that. They went out and they built public support for it. They educated the public, they built public support. They also built support for the legislation by getting a majority of the legislators to sign on as co-sponsors of the bill. So if they voted the way you would think that they co-sponsored it when the bill came to the floor, the bill would have passed. But what happened was the bill never came to the floor so that it could get a vote. And the reason that the bill didn't come to the floor is that in our legislature, under the current rules they use, the committee person, the chairperson of a committee, can determine whether or not a bill comes forward to a vote. One person can decide whether a bill goes forward to a vote, regardless of how many other people in the state think a piece of legislation is worthy and should be passed into law. A single chairperson can decide that, no, we're not even going to vote on it, and default, you have no new law there. So we are now going to be working on trying to educate the public about just how bad these current legislative rules are. The legislature, at the start of each 2-year session, the first thing they do is vote on what rules they will use for that session. So we want to educate the public before the start of the next session that they have to do better. I mean, there have been experts who have evaluated all the state legislatures across the country. Fair Vote put out a publication on best practices in policymaking, and they scored every state. And Pennsylvania came up with a whopping score of 0 because our rules are so bad for how the government operates. So I'm hoping that we will really build some public awareness on this issue, because right now the legislature is fundamentally unresponsive to the citizenry, and that's not going to change unless the rules change. So once we get past redistricting, I hope we switch a lot of our emphasis to that issue. Although there will still be election law, there will still be, campaign finance reform, there will gun reform, how we fund our schools, all those things will still be there. But in my mind, if we don't change how they operate and conduct their business, we're just not going to get our representatives to represent us. But this year we were busy early on looking at what was being done with proposals for constitutional amendments. There were, I think, 4 in the end that went forward, but there was another proposal. Anyway, all of a sudden, constitutional amendments became a thing that the Republicans in Harrisburg wanted to do because they couldn't do much about the fact that the governor could veto legislation they proposed that he disagreed with. But if they get a proposal through the process that's required in Harrisburg, there's a couple hoops to jump through there. But if they put it on the ballot and the voters say yes to it, the governor can't veto it. So the Republicans used that this year to put some limits on the governor's ability to implement a state of emergency. And having been successful with that, they're now looking at that mechanism as a way to get a lot of their other objectives accomplished. And we know there is at least one and maybe multiple proposals that are going to be moving forward in the months to come that are going to target things that the league supports. So we don't want to see the rollback. So one of those in particular has to do with mail-in voting in the state, which the league advocated for very strongly and helped to get that legislation passed, and which we all were able to use for the first time last year during the pandemic. So it enabled a lot of people to vote who would not have been comfortable going to the polls. It resulted in much higher percentages of eligible voters participating in the vote. We view that as a good thing, but we know that there's going to be proposals in our future to take that away and to do it by virtue of a constitutional amendment, and then the governor would have no means to undo that. It would be written into our state constitution. And the track record for things that are put on the ballot is that overwhelmingly most of them are passed by the voters.
Now, the advocacy group has shifted their focus to redistricting.
Right now, we're really focusing on redistricting. The folks at Fair Districts Pennsylvania, which was an initiative that was initiated by the League of Women Voters, but probably perceived as 2 separate entities, and are to some extent, but it's still a project of the League. So on redistricting, Fair Districts had been leading an effort to get new laws passed that would put some guardrails on how electoral districts are created, so that there would be more transparency and accountability to the citizens. There would be some explanation to the voters about what was done, why it was done, how it was done. Anyway, there were laws written for that, and things did not go well, and we did not get the legislation in place that we wanted to get in place that would create some safeguards. So we have moved away from that. By the way, I'll just mention while we're talking about redistricting, just to put it in the historical record here, that a couple years back, when there was not the same effort on changing the laws, and well, there was no success on that as yet, the league filed a lawsuit to change the districts that we had at that time, because we did have some severe gerrymandering in the state. And in fact, Radnor Township was in one of the most highly gerrymandered districts in the entire nation. So the league filed a lawsuit since we weren't able to count on our legislators, and we prevailed in the end, and the districts were redrawn. And our old district, which was, given the nickname of Goofy Kicking Donald after the Disney characters, because it was just that irregular in shape. We now have a pretty compact and contiguous and fairly representative district. So we got a good map in the end, but it was the result of a lawsuit, and it was only a temporary fix because now the maps are going to be redrawn again as soon as the Census Bureau releases the new census data, and that data drives the whole districting process. So the state is about to, it has just recently started hearings for the public on redistricting, and we anticipate there will be opportunities for public comment, and we are trying to educate people about what's happening and when they might be able to provide public comment. It's a little unclear at this point. The legislators haven't been entirely forthcoming about what that process will be and how one participates. And there was just a hearing in the southeastern Pennsylvania region, which by the time they really put out any information about speaking, they had filled the day's slots already. So some of us, in Delaware County and Philadelphia, were trying to, find a way to provide oral testimony, and that process clearly was not open well to the public. So anyway, the point I'm trying to make is the league and fair districts are, using the tools that are available, and we'd like to get legislation on the books, but failing that, we are prepared to do other things, whether it's litigation or whether it's participating in public process that's created for us. So I guess I'll just wrap up my spiel by saying that right now, that's the principal thing we're working on. It's kind of taking all of our energy, and we are looking to help spread the word out through our membership about how people can participate in the process. And we are advocating for an open and transparent process for the redistricting, because what has happened in the past is, a few guys in Harrisburg go into a room and they draw a map, and out it comes. And so we're trying to hold them accountable and make sure that while they're having public hearings, they don't just allow people to say something, but they then show us how they've taken the public's input and made use of it, and how they drew the maps that they drew. So I'll just stop by saying that the league, is very concerned with having a government that serves the electorate well, having laws that allow the citizens to participate fully and freely in the electoral process. And it's an evolving stage for the advocacy team, and it's a new team, and any league member who wants to be active in it is welcome to do so. And I hope that more people will join that as they become aware of what's happening with that.
Ms. Krietler also hopes to improve the connection between the local league and the state level league.
When I joined the league, I remember, and this might have been just what I focused on because it was my interest, but I remember learning that the league had been very involved with environmental issues locally. They had been involved with the protection of the willows, with the establishment of the Radnor Trail, with the creation of the recycling program. Some of our members had served on the township's environmental advisory board. So there was a strong history there, which continued on for some time. I would say more recently, I mean, we still have that. It's probably more me turning toward the government issues with the league. But I have felt that there isn't always the strongest connection between the local leagues and the larger organization. So I am hoping to help really, on a monthly basis, keep the board informed about what's going on at the state level, and try to make sure when there are these opportunities to participate as a citizen in the policy making, that we make our members aware of that.
The annual meetings have been some of Ms. Krietler's favorite League of Women Voters events.
We have 2 meetings each year, and I always get the names wrong. One is our annual meeting. I tend to call them both the annual meeting, and then I confuse the people at the state when I talk to them. But we have one meeting that really looks at the program, which is all the issues, and whether we want to change our positions and all. And then there's the annual meeting, which kind of takes care of a variety of business. But I like those meetings because we get more people to come out at that time, and it's a time to really catch up with some of the other members, and I like that about it. So. Right now, what I really like, I haven't been involved very much, but the work with students that Roberta and some of our other teacher members have started, I did participate in, and this was a ton of fun. It was an educational fun event for elementary school kids, often with the brownies, but we did it at the elementary schools. The candy date event, and it was just a ton of fun. The kids have so much energy, and it's great to be around them. And then they always surprise you, because you never know how kids are going to think about things as they're trying to figure out, okay, here's our candy date, and what is it that we want to tell everybody else about it to make them vote for it, and come up with their little campaign slogans. And it was really a lot of fun. But I really like the fact that we have programs now with high school and college students, and I think that's really valuable. I can't stress enough how important it is for nonprofits to reach out actively to the younger generations, because otherwise we just sort of age out. Our members stick with us, but get older and older. So I think it's very important for the long-term health of the league to build upon those connections. And but I just imagine there's an awful lot of value that flows both ways through the student internship programs.
Ms. Krietler also spoke about how it's important to have members of the league present at public meetings to hold our elected officials accountable.
Well, one thing that some of our members have been good about is attending the public meetings of the Board of Commissioners or the school board, and participating in public comment, and asking for specific requests, which might even devolve down to have a civil conversation when there are discussions. But that presence at the meetings and participating in public comment, let's all of our elected officials and even our appointed officials know that, there are people watching what they're doing, and trying to hold them accountable to the responsibilities that they've taken on. So I think that's a really important thing. I'm hoping we will find some new volunteers for those activities, because every few years or so you need someone new to step up and take on those responsibilities. So,
and to people considering joining the league,
please do. Please reach out to us. Let us know where your areas of interest lie. That'll help with the communications back to you when there's something coming up where we have a need for more volunteers than we have lined up. I think there's some work to do on, the process of bringing people into the organization and getting them engaged, but don't be afraid to start that conversation with us. We would love to have help from people who are not fully participating right now. So I would say, don't be shy. Let us know what you want to work on, and we'll try to find a way to, bring you into that. Well, thank you, Ellie, for doing this. Thank you to the other members of the student club. I think it's great.
Thank you, Ginney Krietler, for participating in the League of Women Voters Oral History. Next, we'll be speaking with Barbara Schrodenbach. Thanks for listening, and remember to stay civically engaged.